Hello everybody. So today's video is a little different. It was a request by one of my viewers, and they wanted to see my dryer running the normal cycle with the TurboSteam option. And for reference here, my dryer is the DLGX4001W. So yeah, that is what I'm going to be showing you guys today. This is just a average load of regular clothes on the lighter weight side, so no like heavy sweaters or jeans or anything like that in this load. A load that I would typically do on permanent press in the washer, and that we're going to be doing here on permanent, or not permanent press, sorry, on normal. So without further ado, I say let's get started here. I don't use dryer sheets or anything like that, so we're just putting the load in as is. Got normal selected, TurboSteam selected. This uses the medium-high temperature, and it estimates about 41 minutes. TurboSteam does not change the time, it just embeds steaming into the cycle. So let's get started. I'm going to turn on the drum light, and then turn off the room lights. I'm going to try using my ring light like I would for the washer videos here as well, so give me a second to get that set up. Oh, that might actually not look great. I don't know, I kind of like the look of the dryer drum light, but the problem is the clothes might block it. And this is a bit of a larger load than what I would usually put, but I'll explain that a little more later. But that will make this just a little difficult. In terms of timing for this cycle, yeah, it's actually just going to be much easier to... You'll see more with the drum light, I think. It's as weird as that might sound here because it's literally just being blocked every other time. Maybe if I make this really dim. Problem is the reflection that this is having. It's not great. I'll wait till the drum light turns off and see how it looks. But anyway, so this is the cycle that I usually do for my normal laundry. So this is the type of cycle that I would do with this style of load, which again is just lightweight items like shirts, thin sweatpants, pajama pants, some workout clothes as well that are not super delicate, so excuse me, they can tolerate the higher heat. But yeah, so you can even see right now the dryer does get quite hot. This is a gas dryer, so how the howling you will hear throughout this video that's just the flame. And my dryer's flame sounds louder than I think most others do because my dryer is in a very open environment, so there's not really anything to muffle the noise. It's great for airflow because there's practically no restriction of airflow for the dryer here. But in terms of the flame noise, I mean, you can hear it. This thing gets quite hot. I mean, you can see like the water steaming up on the door glass there. So, I mean, this thing's getting it done. In terms of duration, the dryer estimates about 41 minutes. Now, I tend to find that the dryer usually overestimates for most loads that I do with it. So an instead of 41 minutes, it'll probably be closer to about 35 with an average load. But this is a slightly larger load than usual, like I mentioned before, and that's because it just seemed more wasteful to me to split this up into 2 loads. Even though in the dryer it didn't really look like a lot, I usually don't like to do above 2/3 of the washer drum, and this was probably closer to 3/4 of the washer drum full with all this. Okay, yeah, the drum light is definitely necessary here. Oh, that just turned on wrinkle care. I'm gonna turn that off. Maybe I should try brightening this. Nope, that does nothing. Alright, we're just gonna run the drum light. So you'll have to excuse me for the durations that the drum light just goes off. Unfortunately, I can't keep it on continuously. I have to just constantly turn it back on whenever it decides to turn off. So, yeah, don't mind that. I think the ring light is still somewhat helping this out a little bit, so I'm gonna leave it there, but I'm gonna leave it at more of the more dim setting, like it's at right now. But yeah, since this is a slightly larger load than usual, it'll probably take about 41 minutes. And once we get to the TurboSteam portion, it'll make more sense why it doesn't actually add to the time. But long story short, TurboSteam just embeds itself in like the last 10-ish minutes of the cycle, or like that's when it happens, to help get rid of static and things like that as best as possible. It's not perfect, especially with certain items in this load, like the pajama pants. Those will still usually come out pretty staticky, but that's also just the material. And some shirts as well. Like the shirts that are all cotton, usually those come out fine after this, but other items will come out more staticky still. But yeah, it doesn't add to the dry time though, because it's not like there's a lot of, it's not like it's putting liquid water in there. Well, I guess in a way it is, but well, no, it's putting in steam. That's why it's called steam. It's gaseous water. So it doesn't take too long to dry. As you can see, even we're getting closer and closer to dry already, as most of the condensation on the door glass is gone at this point, which is nice. It'll get you a bit of a clearer view inside. Door is not very hot yet, which makes sense. We're only 6 minutes into the cycle. But that is one thing I really do like about this dryer. And, well, LG, actually no, all dryers in general, but especially this dryer, since it's an LG, is that it tells you about how long it expects the dry time to take. Unlike the washer, that doesn't even give you an estimate. I think I've talked about this before in my videos, but I really wish the washer gave you at least a rough estimate of what the cycle time would be, because in my opinion, that's a pretty important statistic to know when choosing a cycle or different modifiers. You know, but instead the only way for you to truly know how long it's going to take is to sit there and wait for the sensing routine to finish, which takes about 1.5 minutes-ish. At least, you know, like that was something I did enjoy about the Samsung Flex Wash in comparison to this machine, is that the Flex Wash at least gave you a rough estimate of what the wash time would be. Now, it still did a sensing routine on cycles like normal, but you still knew that, you know, normal was going to be about 45 minutes, say on default settings, and if you made modifications, then it would adjust the time accordingly. But it just gave you an estimated time about like, all right, this is about how long we expect this wash to take. And usually after the sensing routine, it was pretty spot on to that. You know, like, it didn't deviate much from what it predicted. So you knew to check the washer, say like if it was the normal cycle, I knew in like, all right, in 45 minutes, I should go check this after starting it. So, again, just a feature I wish was part of the washer, but it's not. At least the dryer has it though. TurboSteam is not an option when choosing the damp or less dry levels, basically the bottom two below the normal dry level. And I believe that's because for TurboSteam to truly be effective, the clothes have to end the cycle completely dry. And under those conditions, the dryer stops prematurely because, well, if you want the clothes damp, then, you know, they're not going to come out dry. And then less dry is pretty much just like a stage between damp and being dry. So it's not very effective with that. You can't change the temperature for this. So medium-high is all it will allow. And yeah, I think that's pretty much all I have to say about the dryer's normal cycle. I'm impressed it's been heating for this long though. We've been heating for like 10 minutes straight at this point. For those of you who are wondering why I don't use dryer sheets, it's a conscious decision, and the reason we don't use dryer sheets here is because they can supposedly mess with the dryer's moisture sensor. And that kind of makes sense because the way the dryer sheets work is they have a sort of coating on them that is supposed to rub off onto the clothes to help make them smell nicer and soften up and whatnot. But if it can rub off onto the clothes, it can rub off onto the internals of the dryer drum as well, which includes that moisture sensor. And if there's a coating between the sensor and the clothes, then that makes sense why it might not get accurate readings and perhaps stop prematurely or dry for too long. So that's why we don't use dryer sheets. And while there is an argument to be made that, oh, well, you should use at least something to get rid of the static, you're right. There's other ways that you can get rid of static. I think those yarn dryer balls seem to be a decent way to do it. I don't really have much personal first-hand experience with that though, so I won't really be able to give you my 2 cents on dryer balls. But that's why I think it's good to get a dryer with an option like TurboSteam so that, you know, it can interject it into the cycle. TurboSteam seems to be a better option in my experience than, say, the reduced static option for getting rid of static, because unlike TurboSteam, the reduced static cycle adds steam at the very end of the cycle. I mean, like within the last probably 3 to 4 minutes, it adds steam. It doesn't add as much, but it still adds enough to where most of my clothes still came out wet afterwards. And it wasn't like they were soaked or anything, like the dryer didn't do its job. It was more or less for the items that were close enough to the steam nozzle that would end up getting wet. And that makes sense because, you know, it's at that point it's essentially shooting water out. Even though it's like little mist, it's basically shooting out a mist of water, which, you know, will easily condense on the clothes that are, even in the hot dryer, colder than the water coming out. And with so little dry time left, it's very difficult for the dryer to fully get those dry, if not impossible. So that's why I like the TurboSteam for reducing static, is because it still leaves enough time for the dryer to dry even when the steam is interjected in. I've had very select instances of using this exact cycle, normal with TurboSteam, where the clothes still came out a little wet in spots. And usually it was during mixed loads and on the thicker items that just were more difficult to dry in certain spots. Like, for example, my jeans pockets have a little like pen pocket inside of the main pocket, so that adds an extra couple of layers of denim, and that's just that one spot on the pant is way thicker than the rest, and therefore it takes longer to dry. It would probably be the same thing regardless of whether or not I use TurboSteam, but yeah, I can't fully blame TurboSteam for me finding wet clothes or wet spots on clothes out of the dryer here, because like I said, it's always, I don't want to say always, but pretty much always been on thicker items and just in little, like the spots that are ultra thick. You know, just watching the dryer do its thing really makes me wonder about how the lint trap operation works. Like, if we look down at the lint trap, you can see the clothes are just rubbing against it. So how exactly does the lint get in there? I know that the airflow is coming from the back of the drum and, you know, through the lint screen going down and out to the outside through there. So, you know, it's like it is sucking air through the drum and like through the lint screen at that point. But it's just interesting to me how those little holes that aren't even sharp are collecting lint and dust and like loose threads off of these clothes. The science behind that is just remarkable. Turning on the light. finally stopped heating after 21 minutes. 22 minutes, actually. Finally up to temperature. Door's getting warm now, still not hot. was the first round of TurboSteam there. Right after the steaming, it goes straight back to heating. second round of TurboSteam. Was the third round of TurboSteam. And that one included a lot more than I expected, if I'm being honest with you guys. It was very heavy with the steaming there. Okay, this is interesting. We are done with the actual drying portion of the cycle now. But that was a lot of steaming. So I actually don't think that these are going to come out dry. Which I am a little upset about. Actually, no, a little more than a little upset. I'm actually quite upset about that. Because there's no way that those are going to... Well, I mean, I guess it's not no way, but it's a decent chance that it's not going to be completely dry. Because like, the clothes are hot, but I don't know if that residual heat is necessarily going to be enough, if you know what I mean. Final minutes. So this was actually pretty spot on to as I was saying before the song so rudely interrupted me, this was pretty spot on to what it thought the time was going to be. It was an overestimate, though, because the video itself is not even 41 minutes, and, you know, we started about a couple minutes after the video started, so, yeah. But that is what the normal cycle with TurboSteam looks like on this model of LG dryer. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching, and remember, stay cool, everybody.